God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, be with you and remain with you now and forever.
Hi there everyone, Jack here again at the final voyage. So, Dave Berman and the Silver Jews, he was the inspiration for this video, because in his song We Are Real, the first song on the second side, he repeats the line, all my favourite singers couldn't sing, and that is a sentiment that I can wholly get behind, because I'm the same. A lot of my favourite singers would not be fantastic singers, technically fantastic singers in the truest sense. You know, if you look at a show like The Voice, I'm sure you have that in America and France and Germany. It's went all around the world. We certainly have it in the UK, and it's horrific, to be honest. You get this endless parade of technically amazing singers doing their kind of vocal gymnastics. You know, that Mariah Carey brand of singing, which is just soul destroying. It's horrible to listen to. I can't think of anything worse than that type of singer. For me, I like someone who, you know, kind of sings from the heart, has something unique about their voice. I don't care if it's not technically perfect. For me, kind of originality and authenticity are so far more important than someone that can hit the highest notes. And yeah, for me, that is really not my kind of thing. It's all about personality and passion. So first up then is Dave Berman. He had a very spoken approach, especially in the early Silver Jews albums, as he moved through his career and got to his final project, The Purple Mountains. His voice had got stronger and he was trying maybe more ambitious styles of singing, but certainly in the beginning it was a very kind of spoken, morose kind of style, which really suited the Silver Jews kind of lo-fi aesthetic. His lyrics are very witty, self-depreciating and passionate, I think. Again, which suited the lyrics, and the lyrics in the Silver Jews songs are brilliant. He was such a fantastic lyricist, Dave Berman. The guy had a degree in creative writing. He was a published poet prior to being a singer, so you'd expect his lyrics to be good. And I think that's, when you look at a lot of the singers on this list, they put a lot of effort and thought and imagination and creativity into their lyrics. Now, I wouldn't normally say this, certainly not in polite company, and only really with the closest of friends, but Tom Waits, what a growler. You know, this guy sounds like he's swallowed a jazz club, a whiskey barrel, and a cheese grater. It sounds so rusty that he sounds like he should be gargling with WD-40, but at the same time, it sounds so weird and it sounds so amazing. You know, he growls, he shouts, he grunts, he sometimes sings, but the whole thing just works. And this is my favourite Tom Waits album, Bone Machine. Is this from 92? I think it is. Yeah, 1992, I think. And it just sounds fantastic on this. So much grit and passion in his delivery. Next up, we've got Dan Tracy from the Television Personalities. And what I really love about Dan Tracy is that the Television Personalities come out in, I think they formed in 79. This is their first album, and Don't the Kids Just Love It, from 1981. But he was a guy who was kind of enthralled with the 1960s. He loved 1960s music and the iconography. You can see Twiggy and Patrick McGugan, 60s television stars, in the front cover. Look at the back. He was a big fan of Syd Barrett. You've got Pete Townsend there. Little nods to the 60s with The Creation. It says, what was it? Our Music is Red with Purple Flashes was the name of a Creation album. That little line there, "Run in the corridors," is from the 1960s movie If. So everything there says 1960s, but his vocal delivery, while it is probably as far from technically competent as you can get, it's very punkish. He's got a really kind of punk sounding delivery, and he wanted to kind of Dan Tracy wanted to move away from the punk scene, which obviously was big in the UK at the end of the 1970s, mid-70s to the late 70s, but he wanted to get back to kind of 1960s songwriting sensibilities. But his voice has a very English sound to it. It's full of charm, it's full of passion, but it doesn't sound like I said, like a technically great voice. But then at the same time, the music, the television personalities is very lo-fi, so it kind of suits that aesthetic anyway. But yeah, I really, really like Dan Tracy. I love this album. There's so many great songs on here. Silly Girls, brilliant. Jeffrey Ingram, it's fantastic. Picture of Dorian Gray is a beauty as well. And I Know Where Sid Barrett Lives. You want to hear how Dan Tracy sounds, listen to I Know Where Sid Barrett Lives. And it's just, yeah, a fantastic kind of 60s inspired song, but with this kind of very English lo-fi delivery. Yeah, great stuff. Dan Tracy and the television personalities. Next, a national treasure, Mr. Shaun Ryder, the ultimate class clown. In first looks, he looks like a drug dealer, a drug addict. In the past, he's been both, blessed with a voice that sounds like a chain-smoking cheese grater, a face for the radio. Shaun Ryder had no business at all being a pop star. You know, self-admittedly, he didn't know the alphabet until he was 26. He said that he was diagnosed with dyslexia later in life. But at the same time, he might just be the UK's biggest shout for, you know, best poet of the 20th century. His rhymes are absolutely fantastic. So much humour in his lyrics, and so much swagger and kind of cheeky menace in his vocal delivery. I love Shaun Ryder. I loved what he did in the Happy Mondays. You know, his vocal delivery was more about blending sounds rather than a lot of the time what the actual words were. It was how the sounds fitted together. And why am I showing this album? Because this is clearly not the Happy Mondays. This is Shaun Ryder's solo album from 2010. It's called Visits from Future Technology, and it's absolutely amazing as well. I've got it signed by the great man. But it kind of shows that, you know, Shaun Ryder is far, far more than just a one-hit wonder with the Happy Mondays. What's so funny with this album, I think, is there's obviously a lot of self-mythologising when it comes to Shaun Ryder, but he said on this album, I think this was recorded in 2010 in the States, but it wasn't put out until about 2020, and he said that when he released this in 2020, he said that he was surprised because he couldn't actually remember recording it. He said this was a collection of songs that had fallen down the back of a sofa. But they're absolutely brilliant. You know, that first track pretty much sums up his lyrical content, mumbo jumbo, but it's so upbeat, so infectious. It's like good time music that doesn't take itself, you know, too seriously. The track on here, Pop Star's Daughters, is another brilliant song. If you don't know, Shaun Ryder was once married to 60s Scottish folk legend Donovan. He was not married to Donovan, he was married to Donovan's daughter. And this is a cautionary tale against marrying pop stars' daughters. Really, really good. Honey Put the Kettle On, again, is like a nursery rhyme. Crazy Bitches is great. Straighten Up is great. Clubbing Rabbits. This whole album is really, really, really good. Highly recommended if you can pick it up. So there you go. Shaun Ryder. We love you, man. Stay strong. Next up, we've got Laughing Lenny. There's no surprises here. You knew Leonard Cohen was going to appear on this list. But Leonard Cohen's voice it's not, you know, he doesn't so much sing songs. It's almost like he shares secrets from the cosmos. It's like he narrates musings of the soul. It's like a wise old tree dispensing the wisdom of the universe. What is more perfect than Leonard Cohen's deep delivery? It's just amazing. Really, really good. And why would I show this album? Why would I show Death of a Ladies' Man? which is generally considered to be his worst album. Well, I don't get it. I love it. It's his collaboration with Phil Spector, which Cohen himself hated. Spector and Cohen did not get along during the recording of this album, but I love it. I love Leonard Cohen's vocal delivery on this. It's more, you know, he sings more on this, and whereas sometimes he kind of threatens to sing a note on this, he does a lot, in songs like Memories and Iodine. It's just really, really great stuff. I don't know if maybe Spector held a gun to his head and forced him to sing, but it's really, really good. There's even some backing vocals from Bob Dylan and Allen Ginsberg on this track, Don't Go Home With Your Heart On, which is an inspired bit of musical harmonising. But yeah, don't let the critics put you off, or the naysayers. I love Leonard Cohen's voice. It's absolutely brilliant. And even on Death of a Ladies Man, it's A1 for me. Next up, we've got another of pop's most heavily criticised vocalists. It is the legendary Ian Brown. Now, if you listen to Ian Brown singing with the Stone Roses on their debut album, he sounds positively angelic. He sounds like a choir boy. And I think the criticism started when critics started looking more closely at his live performances, and especially the Roses' kind of final gig at Reading, where he was kind of ripped to shreds for his subpar vocal performance. But I saw Ian Brown 4 times live. I saw him back in the day, just as they were releasing The Second Coming. I can't really comment on his vocal performance that night at the Glasgow Barrowlands because my memory's a little bit hazy. Less said about that, the better. I saw him at Glastonbury in '98, just when he released Unfinished Monkey Business, just after he'd left the Stone Roses, and that gig was absolutely legendary. His vocals were brilliant, full of swagger and confidence and bravado, and the songs were just brilliant as well. Aziz on the guitar was phenomenal. He had like lights attached to all of his fingers, were sending like lasers across the room, and yeah, it was just like a magical night. It was brilliant, but his vocals were spot on. Saw him at Norwich, UAE a few years later when he did Golden Greats. Brilliant that night as well. I met him in the lobby, but his vocals were spot on that night as well. Then I saw him on the Stone Roses farewell gig at Hampden, and it was really poor. But I think that was as much to do with the sound at Hampden Stadium as much as anything else, because the whole band sounded really weak and wimpish, and that, like I said, that was really, really poor. But on record, I always like the sound of Ian Brown. All of his solo stuff, he sounds great on. This is his final solo album, Ripples. And yeah, it's great as well. First World Problems, really well delivered vocal on there. It's a great tune, kind of almost like a reimagining of Sympathy for the Devil, Loaded, that kind of similar chord structure. But there's a few he covers a few reggae tracks on this. So there's Black Roses, it was done by, was it Barrington Levy? Levy Barrington? I can't remember. Break Down the Walls by Mikey Dread is really cool as well. But this is, again, really lo-fi. It's like Unfinished Monkey Business. It's almost like he's kind of went back to the beginning. This was the album that he put out after the Roses reunion finished. And he has his 2 sons. Is it Frankie and what's the other son called? Frankie and Casey Brown. They play the guitars and a load of other stuff on here. But yeah, it's really, really good. And I think Ian Brown on record always sounds great. Again, not the most technically proficient vocalist, but his vocals sound very unique, and you always notice Ian Brown. So yeah, I'm a massive fan. And then there's Bob. 2 words that come to mind when you think of Bob Dylan's vocal sound would be nasally and gravelly. Not words that you would probably associate with a great singer, but for me it's Bob Dylan's kind of distinctive vocal phrasing that make his vocal delivery so great. I love Bob Dylan's vocals, but I think he would be very, very high in the list of probably singers who people would say weren't good singers. I think his vocals probably put a lot of people off, and a lot of the time, especially in the 60s, I think his songwriting was kind of more revered than his vocals. But I don't think for me, if you look at a song like Make You Feel My Love that was on Time Out of Mind, it's almost like a kind of bit of a throwaway song for Dylan. It's a great song, but then if you look at the whole host of people that covered it, from Billy Joel to Garth Brooks to that mega hit from, what's her name, Adele, who's seen as being some absolutely fantastic singer. Well, for me, Dylan's version is better than all of them. Bob managed to wring every single last bit of emotion out of the songs that he sang, which just goes to show that you don't need to be an excellent, technically proficient singer to be a great singer. With Bob Dylan, all he really needed was a story and a whole lot of character. Another singer who managed to get to the emotional core of the songs that he sings without being a technically proficient singer, probably the least technically proficient singer out of everybody that I've spoke about in the video so far, would be Scottish singer Aidan Moffat, or Aidan Moffat. So Aidan Moffat sang with the Angry Buddhists, with Arab Strap, and then he went solo. And he's got a very downbeat, dour kind of style, sings in a very strong Scottish brogue. He comes from Falkirk. This is his album, How to Get to Heaven, from Scotland, Aidan Moffat, and the best ofs. And this is a cool little box set. It's done like one of these kind of 1980s board games. So it said it's a 2-player only game, the classic game of love and honesty. Can you resist temptation and find your way to heaven? The journey starts here. Now, Aidan Moffat just sings about relationships. That's his main thing. He generally sings about relationships gone wrong in a very, very Scottish way. But his vocal delivery, a lot of the time, is quite spoken. It's out of tune a lot of the time. He just does fantastic cover versions as well. He doesn't care how proficient or how technically excellent the singer is that he takes on. He'll still just do it in his own way. So there's a little 7-inch you get with this. Love is not a game on one side, and that's brilliant. Sonny and Cher's I Got You Babe on the A side. But this is a great little package. You get the album, which has just got great songs on it. Ballad of the Unsent Letter. It's just fantastic. Big Blonde, really full of humour, and he delivered in his kind of Scottish accent. Atheist Lament is great. Let's see, is there a picture of Aidan? Let me see. That's him there. A great lyricist, The delivery is probably a little bit more upbeat than you would get on an Arab Strap album. It's a little bit more accessible, I think. Here's the board game. So, it's like Snakes and Ladders. You're starting in Scotland, Bonnie, Scotland. You'll go back down the board if you get caught doing any kind of lecherous ogling. A blueprint for life, as delivered to you by the one, the only, Aidan Moffat. Try him out if you've not heard him. I'm sure most of you have probably heard Arab Strap. But I probably like his solo stuff better, actually. And this is my favourite of the lot. How to Get to Heaven, from Scotland. So a lot of the vocalists that I've shown in the video tonight have got strong regional accents. And that's maybe something, maybe more so in the past, that was looked down on a little bit. But here's another classic frontman with probably, again, a kind of unconventional vocal styling. It is, of course, the one, the only, Lou Reed. Now, this is a voice that's seen a lot, and I mean a lot, of late nights. But Lou, he's so cool. He's so cool that he doesn't actually really need to sound pretty. He just is. The songs are so pretty, so beautiful that, Sunday Morning, I'm Waiting for the Man, Venus and Furs, they just all are so cool. Heroin, It's like the little blemishes and blips in his vocal delivery that make Heroin sound the way it does. That's how it's so good, I think. Yeah, yes, the main man himself, Lou Reed. And to finish with then, another regional singer, this time from Birkenhead. It's Nigel Blackwell with the one, the only, Half Man, Half Biscuit. He's got such an amazing delivery, Nigel Blackwell. It's so full of humour, it's so witty, it's so on the money in terms of all the little cultural references and the amount of passion that he puts into the lyrics. There's just nobody that sounds like Half Man, Half Biscuit, and you don't need to be a technical or a technically proficient singer, or you don't need the vocal gymnastics when you've got songs like these. You don't even really need to have a competent band. You just need to put your heart and soul into it, and for me that's what all the greatest music is all about. It's about putting your heart and soul behind the songs, and if you do that, then not everybody will like them, but some people will. Half Man, Half Biscuit are testament to that. They've got a strong cult following, and they're never ever going to break the mainstream, but I don't really care. I like them, and for me, that's all that counts. So, yeah, my last of my singers who are not maybe the most technically competent vocalists that I love, Nigel Blackwell and Half Man, Half Biscuit. So that's your lot. That's my 10. I'm sure there's absolutely loads and loads more. People who are into punk, I suppose, punk music as a whole is full of musicians and singers who maybe weren't the best technically, but were full of passion and fire and drive. And for me, the things that matter, creativity. So have a go yourself if there's artists that I've missed off that you think, really deliver, but maybe not in the traditional sense in terms of vocals. I know that Ben Rankins had spoke the other day on a live stream that I was on that he felt Tom York fitted into this category. I kind of agreed. I think he was maybe a little bit harsh. I think he described him sounding like, was it an old woman choking on a cough sweet or something like that? I don't know. I was pretty pissed. I'd had a few beers, so I can't quite remember. But I know that he didn't like him. I can remember that he didn't like Tom York's vocals. He doesn't quite make the list for me. I quite like Tom York's vocals, but maybe you don't. Like I said, put in the comments saying if you are unconventional singers. Tell me what you thought of the video, if you like these artists, if you don't agree, if you think that they've got the voices of angels, then let me know. If you agree also, let me know, give us a thumbs up. And until the next time, see you later. Bye for now.